Tommy Rooney, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ger.
So, easier or harder to put the power rankings together as more evidence comes to light?
Easier. Yeah, I think so. It's getting there, Ger. Yeah, it's getting there. And I think a lot of people seem to be, just from chatting to people over the last couple of weeks, they seem to be in the same boat and reading different pieces. Like, it feels like every team has flaws and has issues, and nearly by default, because of their consistency so far and how impressive they've been, Galway are a lot of people's number one. So I don't know.
Basically, everybody's copying your power rankings is what's going on.
Well, listen, they are the official Gaelic Football Power Rankings, so I'm just fulfilling a duty here. I'm just covering Pro and Sheen.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's get through this, because I've some bones to pick with you and your football pod.
Okay.
Co-conspirators. But let's get through the Tailteann Cup bracket. But it isn't actually the Tailteann Cup bracket, because some Tailteann Cup teams probably believe they should be in the Sam Maguire, and that's certainly what we're getting from the power rankings. But let's go through these, Tommy.
Yeah, okay. Couple of changes at the back end. There's a couple of big wins last week. We've got our quarter-final lineup for the Tailteann Cup. You'll notice that Wexford and Carlow have moved significantly. Leitrim and Wicklow have moved back. So we've got London 33rd, Waterford 32nd, Tipperary 31st, New York 30th, Leitrim 29th, Wicklow, who got promoted, 28th. Wexford have moved up to 27th, Carlow 26th, Longford, who didn't make it through, 25th. Leisure in 24th place if you go to slide 3. Fermanagh, who got promoted, have slid back due to their championship performances to 23rd. Limerick are rooted at 22nd, but I do think that they've kind of steadied the ship under Mark Fitzgerald ever since Ray Dempsey departed, or was the players got rid of him, you could say, in March. Antrim, Andy McEntee's Antrim, as they're being come to be known, are in 21st place. They're up 2. Offaly 20th, they're out now for the year, they're finished. Sligo have slipped back 1 to 19th because the Royals, County Meath, Mighty Meath are up to 18th, just behind Down in 17th, who have slipped back. They're facing Cavan this weekend, who are in 16th.
I think Sligo are hard done by not to be above everybody, because they've actually performed really well, I would argue, so far in Sam Maguire. But to go back to the points on the first page, right, so Wicklow are 28th and Wexford are 27th. At the end of the year, what are we going to say about these two teams, and who's had the correct me if I'm wrong here, but Wexford are still Division 4 next season, right? Yeah,
Wexford and Carlow are still Division 4, but I think Carlow have played 6 championship games this year. Do you know, like, you've just got to give credit where credit is due. These teams are using these new systems and they're developing their players. They're getting bang for their buck. They're getting championship matches, and they're pretty close games that they're winning. Like, Wexford kicked 122 from play at the weekend to beat Offaly. Offaly, who bet Meath. Offaly, who performed so well in the Leinster semi-final. So I just think it's a good sign that these teams are, I suppose, improving after the league, and
my point here is
reflected in the power rankings.
These competitions are actually proving beneficial to teams who know how to use them or who are using them properly, and so this is the first year of it. But I'm really worried that the narrative is going to be like, oh, this is a failure, we're bored of these games, I can't learn anything from them, this is nonsense. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. This is the league section. So round robin is like a phrase that, Champions League, it's a league section. The whole point of this is to get the best teams arriving in the quarterfinals or in the knockout round, which is like, if we'd called it Wildcard weekend and branded it properly, as opposed to preliminary quarterfinals.
Yeah, exactly.
The boring shit that you have to wade through before you get to the good stuff. Like, preliminary. Who likes the preliminaries? Nobody likes the preliminaries. Everybody wants the main event. If they branded that properly, we'd be really excited about the fact that the knockout football is imminent and everybody will be arriving at that stage of the season fairly. Because if you remember, the cry wasn't that we just want to watch the best teams play each other. It was also that it was completely unfair that the Ulster teams had to wade through miles and miles and miles of muck and bullets and warfare to get to the point where then they would be picked off by teams who are completely fresh from having played challenge matches in Leinster and Munster in particular. And now it's even. And when we get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals and wildcard weekend, it's going to be great.
Ger, I totally agree with you. and I don't know whether this is the bone that you wanted to pick up the football pod, and maybe I do represent the two lads. I disagree with the lads whinging and complaining.
You were too gentle with them. You need to kill them.
Okay, I got accused this week of being too afraid of Paddy Anders to chair the football pod. So maybe you're right. Maybe I need to stand up to the wolf. Look at. I think
the other thing I'd say is that
there's a little bit of fatigue.
Go on, but the fatigue.
But no, I think that's understandable, Ger, but I also think that the narrative is going to be at the end of this.
Exactly.
Who's fatigued by it?
These are league games. These are league matches. Every league game doesn't have to be amazing. This is a league. Whether it's supposed to be the championship, but it's actually a league. We like the way it's formed is you play a bunch of games against the same teams in your group. Everybody plays the same number of teams. That is the definition of a league, and then the best teams come out of that into the knockout section, and that's the bit where you go, okay, what's the quality of the competition like, and what have we seen, and what have we learned from it?
Well, I think my point I was going to make there is the issue is, and the narrative that I think is going to be at the end of this is, what was the point of April? What was the point of those 30 odd games in the provincials? Completely imbalanced. They got in the way. There was so much going on. We were trying to read into them, but what was the point of it all? I think that's what the narrative is going to be after this, and I think that's what the point of this bloody elongated, truncated championship has been. It's supposed to be a Trojan horse. Like, the GAA had a far superior format in Proposal B, but it was a touch too radical. So it was shot down and defeated. And this was greenlit and pushed through without much of a discussion and much of a debate. And it's probably going to last for a year or two. But hopefully, unless I'm completely wrong, and if I'm wrong, I might just give up on GA and go and follow another sport or something.
Jimmy Guinness wants back to straight knockout for the top 16.
This has to be the future, but we just need to move the provincials out of the way and reduce its importance. Now, I'll probably get shot for saying that, but that is clear as day what the issue is right here.
Well, you say what was the point of those provincial games, but Derry fans this year will
here
be...
we go with Ulster.
No, but hold on.
Geez.
Derry fans will be delighted to have won back-to-back Ulster titles. That means something.
Ulster says no.
Hold on. Treat the Ulster... Why can't you treat the provincials as a separate competition, which it is to the All-Ireland competition?
I agree.
I know. Yeah. I'm only messing shit. No, totally. And I agree. And it should be a provincial. It should be a separate competition.
And offer incredible prize money for team holidays.
Possibly, yeah.
Absolutely. Treat it like the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Stick it away earlier in the year. Make it a massive thing. Warm up. Move the leagues on a little bit. Get the football in better weather. Like Andy McEnany was talking about it during the week. You've got such important games in January and February where you can barely kick the ball past the 45 because of the wind and the rain and the muck.
Yeah.
And there's more attendances. There was more people at Galway Mayo in January than there was at Mayo Loud on one of the most beautiful days of the year 2 weeks ago in McHale Park. And that just shows you that people are mad to go to football, but the format is a little bit all over the place, and we'll get there. I think we will get there. I'm willing to put up with it.
I do think that we have to understand a little bit about attendances. When the weather gets really good, the family are going to watch the match on their phones or listen to the game on the radio, because there's other stuff that needs to be done. And but if there's loads of games on,
there's also a geographical thing here. You two lads are from Leinster, so it's no wonder you're giving out about the provincial championship. The last time someone other than Dublin won it, Nixon was president probably. You need to just calm the ham here. Some people enjoy the provinces. I personally enjoy them.
But we're not saying you can have it.
I don't want to take away the provinces. I just want to take away the archaic 150-year-old control that it has on the championship. Is completely ill-balanced. Ger said it plenty of times. We have 33 counties involved in the football. It's perfectly set up to be broken down.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I made fair. Armagh this year came through the preliminary round, got to the Ulster final. They're going to go through the preliminary quarterfinals of the round robin stage. Armagh have to play way more matches than Galway have to play. And sure, you're saying they won, they get to be rewarded, but it's because of the way that the who drew the geographical lines back in the day? It's because of the way that the provinces are broken up. That's the reason. We're dictated by something that isn't fair.
The planters. Yeah, I do think. I agree with you that the league position should dictate what the remainder of the championship. But then also, if you put the provincials too early and you take away the meaning behind them, there's a danger that
meaning.
Well, there's a danger it becomes the McKenna Cup. Do you want the Ulster Championship to become the McKenna Cup?
You love the McKenna Cup.
I do, actually,
as much as you love the Ulster Championship. You actually do, and it's amazing. It's fantastic, and you have that there's that unbelievable colour with it, but like that'll never be lost. Like the Connacht Championship is really good as well on one side, you know. It is like, and then the other side with Connacht, Leitrim, New York and London is really competitive. It's just that there's such a gap between those Division 3 and 4 teams and Division 1 teams.
I think the actual answer to all of this is a third tier, to be honest, and that would be
possibly,
all the games would be completely cutthroat, and then you could still have your preliminary quarter-final, and you could have the Division 3 champions in a preliminary wildcard weekend, your Division 2 champions in a preliminary wildcard weekend, and against the worst teams. Or instead of making the 12 teams go through, make it 10 teams go through, and again you've wildcard weekend where the bottom 4 are playing and the top 6 are through automatically to quarter-finals. So there's ways to make this, to tweak it so that like people are, I think that this wasn't designed to stop dead rubbers, really. This was designed to give everybody the same number of games, and then you just need to make sure that from that point forward we have the best teams in it.
I did go too easy on the lads this week on the football pod. I guess I was ready to have that debate.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we shouldn't. We're getting sucked into it here too. I think it's one of the. We'll just get your line back there, Tommy. Is having a bit of trouble with it.
Paddy Andrews is dealing with the Wi-Fi there.
It's typical Dubs. They're interrupting the message. You know, somebody's put his hand up and said, "Well, hang on a second." Somebody's giving out about us.
Yeah, there's like a bat symbol coming from Dublin.
It's just is it the left arm? Does it matter which arm you put up when you're holding the ball? And you're like, oh, we're killing the game for a minute or two here. But when they do it, it's cynical and brilliant. When Roscommon do it, it's like, oh, it's the death of the game. It's the bubonic plague, the Connacht plague.
Yeah.
What? The Dubs have been doing this for years.
I couldn't believe the narrative after that game, by the way. The amount that's been discussed about that Roscommon Dublin game.
Oh, we've got to change the rules. Or maybe just push up on them. Do you know?
Yeah.
Just push up on them.
As a manager, you have to be reactive. Davy Burke didn't play like that against Sligo, and they kicked an outrageous number of scores from play. To beat Dublin or get a draw against Dublin as it was. Play them at their game.
We need to do a separate power rankings for the managers.
Oh yeah. Well, Davy Burke's up there, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's the Roberto De Zerbi of this whole thing.
Give us an L power rankings from, if you're out there watching us at the moment, youtube.com/off the ball. You can leave a comment there. You can tweet us at Off the Ball AM. Give us a power ranking of the managers. We'll stick the graphics up here and we'll come back. We'll get Tommy back up as soon as we can. So, slide 3, Cavan are 16th, up 1. Westmeath are 15th. Kildare are 14th. Louth are 13th. Clare are 12th, down 1. Cork have gone ahead of them. They're in 11th. Donegal, clinging on in there, in fairness to them, are 10th. Monaghan are 9th. And then we get to the first page. Armagh down 1 to 8th. Tyrone up 1 to 7th. Several people have talked about Tyrone being potential All-Ireland contenders in this.
Andy McEntee did, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Roscommon are 6th. Derry 5th. Dublin 4th. Mayo 3rd. Kerry 2nd. Galway 1st. Tommy, you're back.
Sorry lads, I think the provincial council's cut my connection there. So I don't know if you got my point there, but I just think I parked it mentally, the structures, and I think we're going to go with it. So I heard you go through the rankings there. A couple of movements. Cork jumped Clare. I think that's well deserved. Tyrone jumped Armagh. Rory Larmer making the point to me this week that Monaghan should be ahead of Armagh given the state of their Armagh's championship so far, but I just think Armagh pushed Derry so far and they switched it on that day that they deserve to be in the top 8.
Well, Monaghan are coming, beat Donegal this weekend and they'll move up.
It feels like Armagh put everything into the Ulster Championship and are a little bit broken by the experience.
Possibly, Ger.
But then the performances,
they came so close. Like there's definitely a hangover. Like again, another penalty shootout similar to last year against Galway. They came so close that there is a bit of a kind of hangover from that, you know. A question
listening to the football pod yesterday struck me when there's certainty that Galway will beat Armagh, right? Is it Galway Armagh this weekend?
It is Galway Armagh this weekend,
there's consensus, but
well, Paddy seemed pretty certain, but I did wonder, like, what happens in the alternative universe where the penalty shootout goes Armagh's direction? Are Armagh top of the power rankings this year? Is there like was that sliding doors moment so severe in the All-Ireland semi-final last year? I'm talking about not the Derry one, but if that the impact is a full page on the power rankings. You go from 1st to 8th. Like, are Galway free now because they reached an All-Ireland final and they're fulfilling their potential and they feel better about themselves because, you know, everything that they thought was possible became possible last year? Whereas with Armagh, it's like, oh, we're slightly cursed somewhat. What's...
It's an interesting point, and I'm looking here for my first power rankings of the year, but if I'm not mistaken, I think I had Armagh in 5th at the start of the year, and I had Galway maybe in 3rd or 4th. Yeah, they were definitely high enough, Shane. So like what does that tell you? I suppose it tells you that it was massive last year, but the big thing this year has been the manner in which Galway have developed their squad, the manner in which they've brought back all-stars and Ian Burke, you could say, or Peter Cook, who's made such an impact at inter-county level, or John Maher, who's come in from the cold to be one of the most impressive midfielders in the country, or the young defenders that they brought in to cover for Silk and Malloy. And while Armagh have, you know, Turbot has established himself, it's by and large still a similar team to what we saw last year. Actually, they've tried to add a bit more steel. They've kind of gone a different way about it. They've tried to kind of reduce the explosiveness and the madness and the chaos that they brought last year, because they know they can switch that on. And I think they tried to add a bit more steel and consistency this year, because that looked like from afar one of their biggest issues last year. So
okay,
like, I think the year started with Galway 3rd and Armagh 4th. Like, I gave them both a lot of kudos for what we saw last year. Armagh possibly too much, but Armagh have slipped back to 8th and Galway moving to 1st by virtue of what we've seen throughout the year. If Armagh had beaten Derry in the Ulster final, they'd be 5th right now.
Yeah, but that's the thing. A lot of teams put so much emphasis on so Armagh had to win an Ulster title under McGeeney. Do you know, they haven't won an Ulster title since 2008, so they put so much emphasis on that. Derry, the pressure was off a little bit because they'd won last year, and their focus will be on the All-Ireland Championships this year. But I think Armagh losing that Ulster final in the manner in which they did has impacted them mentally since, because they haven't won it in such a long... It's same as Clare in the hurling. 98 is the gap. Like, all of a sudden there's a mental thing that comes in every single year, for some teams that so badly want to win their province, and Armagh are one of them. There's
obviously a savage level of disappointment there, and it was natural. Like, there was going to be, like, Armagh started plenty of their games quite well, but there's just something slightly, I don't know whether it's a confidence thing or just couple of sliding doors moments not going their way. Like, momentum is a really, really funny thing in sport, whether it be in the middle of a game or the middle of a season. Sometimes all you need is something to click and you can take off from there. Like, we're all looking at Kerry, and like, I don't know whether we're seeing signs of 09 where they kind of stuttered their way through, you know, qualifiers and got by, and next thing, bang, the Dubs in Croke Park in the quarter-final, and they explode and they play some of the best football that we've seen Kerry play across that generation in those last couple of games, so across that decade. So, like, momentum is so funny, and especially in a year like this, it could happen for Armagh. I don't know.
Yeah, I look, that is the one thing that is just giving me pause for thought, is that a team can suddenly find form, find a shape. Stuff that they've been working all year finally drops because they've had the extra 3 or 4 weeks and it's been honed in match conditions. So there's two sides to what happens over the next couple of weeks. If you end up in the wildcard weekend, you have to win that. So you're playing this week, you play wildcard weekend next week, and then you're playing All-Ireland quarter-final the week after, and then you have a week off before semi-final and a week off before the final. But over that 3-week block where you're playing game, you know, we've seen Mayo in the past with their style of play come alive when they had to play qualifier, draw, replay to get to, like, you know, the 13-game season they had, which would basically be what Armagh would have to do this year if they make it. I don't think that Armagh had the same quality of football that Mayo team did, and they hadn't quite had the same level of experience that Mayo team did. But
put it this way: if Armagh finished third in their group, right, they're likely in the preliminary quarter-final to play away to, as things currently stand, Kerry, Monaghan, or Roscommon. Like, do you fancy them in any of those games away from home? I don't know. Like, that's where Armagh are at the moment.
Well, it's not where they're at yet. And okay, it's a good point, Shane. They could end up playing those teams, but, and I know I have Galway in first place this weekend, and I know they've been ruled out, and I know they don't have Rian O'Neill yet, but there's still a lot to be decided at the weekend, and the lads are very dismissive on the pod this week. They picked the favourites for all the games. If you back all the teams the lads backed and you put a fiver on it, you'll only get 20 back, and that's from 8 games this weekend. So the favourites are being touted and predicted. But if we do see a shock this weekend, and if it goes slightly the other way and Armagh get a slice of luck, or the door opened on the right side. Armagh could finish top of this group by virtue of score difference. And then the championship is blown open once more. Like, same thing can happen with Roscommon and Dublin this weekend. If Roscommon manage to beat Kildare and Kildare roll over by more than Sligo roll over for Dublin, well then we're going to have the Dubs in second place. We're going to have Kerry in second place. We're going to have Galway in second place. And then we're thinking, oh, this is a bit wild this weekend.
Can I just briefly talk about 09, which is the one that everybody talks about? Oh, Kerry. That's that. If Sheehan was here instead of wherever he is, he'd be like, that's the one that crowns them the winners of the team of the decade. They beat Dublin, who, let's face it, were shite, right? In 09, the Gilroy Revolution hadn't kicked in properly. They still had the rest of the Chaos Years team. There was a lot of lads with collars up and white boots, and then in the semi-final they beat Meath, and in the final they beat Cork. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What? That's like
handy. And they were poor against Meath. Yeah, I think I misspoke earlier. Maybe it was 08 where they played the best football of their best football of that decade. Yeah. But
look, they were a great team, full of great lads. I greatly admire them. But Toronto, the team of the decade, we all know. Anyway, that's
definitely Ger. I agree. We're on the same boat with that. We've been there over the last couple of years. But yeah, 100%.
Okay, so the Dubs can't get no love. What are they, fourth?
Like,
Colin Nally in studio yesterday was like, who's going to win? It's like, not Dublin.
Colin is browbeaten by Dublin over the last couple of years. He's come so close. Like, Colin and Andy McEntee's Mead, who you've both spoken in the last week, they had 1.5 good halves of football against the Dubs in Championship. They were getting somewhere. At times, they had that Leinster final where they kept the Dubs to 4 points at half time and they only kicked 4 themselves. Like, they're scared. And I don't blame them for thinking that the Dubs are going to come and beat them. I haven't seen it yet, and I have to go off what I've seen. Kildare were very poor the last day. Kildare, the mind boggles why they didn't just do what they had done in Croke Park. It's like twice already this year, Kildare had pushed the Dubs to a point. And they just didn't execute what they had previously done. I don't even think Dublin had to be that much better. Like, Bugler's having a great year. Collie Pascal stood up the last day. Bit more freshness in the forwards, but like, the injuries are building up here. I'm not seeing where to put them yet.
They're still creeping their way. So if they presumably they'll beat Sligo by a bigger margin than Roscommon beat Kildare by this weekend, you'd imagine, on paper anyway. So that puts Dublin straight into a quarter-final, and all of a sudden they're there. Like,
I think so.
It's a big caveat.
Yeah, I think so much depends on whether or not McCaffrey is fit and reaches a full level of fitness. Because it's ridiculous to say that a team is dependent on one individual, but at this level, the difference between Dublin with him and without him is enough for them to. You've got to completely change your game plan. Basically, at 5 or 6 times during the game, a score is going to come off him, or he's going to get a score, and that's the difference between 116 and 112 or 111. And those 5 points, that's the margin of victory. Somewhere in that is the difference between losing a game against Kerry, Galway, Tyrone, Mayo, and winning a game against those. And that's how good he is if he's fit.
I think this is the year, and it's quite obvious looking at the movement of the power rankings this year. There are no great teams, but this is a year where a great player might win an All-Ireland for their county. But it's also the year where one key injury can completely throw off a team. And you're looking at Galway. They lose one of their star players, maybe that completely imbalances them. If Kerry lose somebody, we're not even going to say his name, like, nobody else is really firing the way they are. If the Dubs lose 1 or 2 key players, if McGuigan isn't there for Derry, very quickly a hole or 2 in a team is going to really trouble them this championship.
With that in mind, right, there is also an opportunity for. It feels a little bit like Tyrone kind of washed up out of nowhere with that incredible subs bench, and it was a weird constellation of new management team, everybody available for one season and one season only, and they came out of nowhere, smash and grabbed, won the All-Ireland and disappeared. Were out of the competition at one stage because of COVID, and then managed to get their way back in. Like, when you think about it, it's absolute banana stuff. But this could be a year for a bananas winner. Like, and
absolutely.
If I'm Davy Burke, I'm like, why not us?
It feels like 2010, Ger, and I've said it since the start of the year. It feels like that there's a couple of teams in the brink, a couple of counties that could break through. There could be a Donegal or a Mayo in the periphery here that aren't quite ready yet, but we're going to see them over the next couple of years take over. There could be another Dublin on the way, but they're just not ready to go yet. Or it could be a year where Down or Cork get to an All-Ireland final, like we saw at the end of the decade, and we never see them again for the next decade after that. So maybe we're going to see a Roscommon Derry All-Ireland final. Roscommon Armagh All-Ireland final, or Monaghan Roscommon, Shane.
I was going to say that. Credit needs to go to managers who come in and in their first year, Kevin McStay and Mayo, Davy Burke and Roscommon, Vinnie Corey and Monaghan, like 3 counties that, with all due respect, fancy their chances of getting to an All-Ireland final.
Did you say David Burke and Monaghan as well? Was there a
David Burke and Roscommon, of course, but like
maybe I just heard it.
But first year managers, straight away coming in and adopting their game plan.
Well, sorry, Tommy. When the line was down, we were saying you should do a power rankings of the managers, and like they'd all be going great guns at the moment.
That'd be tough, Ger. I'd have to do a power rankings of the management teams, I think, because of the importance of who's around who. I think that's very, very important.
You must be very well connected to some of these management teams, because I haven't yet brought up a manager when you have I think you're in some coaching WhatsApp groups. Colin Nally revealed to us yesterday that the coaches all share information, and I suspect that you've been co-opted into some of them.
Yeah, well, look, there's a coaches WhatsApp group, there's an analyst WhatsApp group, there is a managers WhatsApp group. They all exist. I haven't infiltrated any of them, but I just think we've learned over the last couple of years how important it is who you have around you, who you have doing what. The manager of an inter-county team is such a big job that you need to have the right people around you, and we're seeing that. Who
was the best team? Like, you're thinking Cian O'Neill in Galway, or thinking the Mayo All-Star backroom team, or Mark McHugh in Roscommon?
Like, Cian O'Neill and Joyce seem to be the perfect marriage. McStay seems to have nailed about what he has, and the on-field coaches in Buckley and Rochford, and what Mulligan and McHale are bringing to the table. Like, last year it felt like Jack O'Connor and Paddy Talley were the perfect balance, Like, Dublin's water carriers this year are Pat Gilroy and Brian Cullen. That just shows you the strength of what they have. Like, they've been delisted from the match programme so that they can carry water. So, like, it's unbelievable. Like,
that shenanigans is one of my favourite wrinkles in GAA history. It's like, you can't have those as their Mayor Furness. Grand, well, they won't be officially selected then. That's grand. We see what you're doing, and we've managed our way around it. It's like,
I give you my power rankings. They're of the management teams to be just the way they are right now.
Same with the teams.
I'm only joking. To be a bit more movement. Maybe we'll have a look at that. Yeah, maybe we'll have a look at that. Okay.
That can be one of our down weeks. Okay, so Galway 1, Kerry 2. Are Kerry a little bit high?
Like, I don't know what you want me to do here, because
I want the Dubs higher.
I'm saying there's chinks in the armour, but you get credit for winning All Ireland, and like, they've been shook a little bit. I thought they were pretty good against Cork in the first half. Some people disagree. They still have David Clifford, and David Clifford could win the All Ireland on his own.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even fully fit. He's not even great yet. He's just playing with that bit of anger. I'm not sure if you read Eamon Fitzmaurice's piece in the Examiner, a little excerpt a couple of weeks ago, but he said, like, involved with Fussa, what he saw was Clifford is so good at it, and he's happy to facilitate others and let others do the business if things are going well. But the second the team gets in a bit of bother, he becomes the main man. Give me that ball, he'll do the damage, he'll look after it. So that's not going to get Kerry all the way this year. They're going to need others to just up it a little bit. I think Mayo, if Mayo don't have that 1-1 collapse in injury time against Louth, we're looking at it going, they won by 14 points to 9, job done. Sure, they kind of struggled a little bit with the blanket, but they butchered a couple of goal chances, and I don't think it was that bad for Mayo. They're staying in third, and like the Dubs in fourth. I just think that's the order at the minute. And
Ger's after saying there, Tommy, I want Dublin higher, and if memory serves me correctly, in the last power rankings we had, Ger was backing down off Dublin and saying,
just saying they were 1A, they were 1 on 1A.
Okay, right. Well,
I wasn't giving Galway enough credit early in the year. I've changed my mind a little bit on Galway. They're winning me over.
It's fickle, isn't it, Tommy?
But that's it, Shane. It's easy to sit there and have your pops and your little jabs, and I'm the one who has to be up till 2 a.m. of a Monday doing my power rankings and making sure I move it, making sure that Pat Spillane and myself nearly have the exact same power rankings. So I don't know what that says.
You must be very proud.
Well, look at Pat is obviously.
You say there's plagiarism here, Tommy. Come on, just say it. I'll say it if you won't say it.
No, there's no plagiarism, and I'm not saying that. But I just think it is the way that the year has gone. I think that it's hard not to put Galway in first place by default, and that's what I'm saying, because they haven't won the All Ireland yet. There's still a long way to go, but they have been the most consistent and impressive team. Everyone else has obvious chinks in the armour.
A few quick comments. Could have dropped Fermanagh 3 places to put Laois ahead of them after last weekend, says the unofficial Kildare fan page. Quirky 1980 says Meath are lucky with their group. Ronan Hurricane, good morning Ronan, says unfortunately Ger, it's still not fair. Ulster teams find it harder to get to the provincial final and therefore find it harder to get into Sam Maguire. It's still not the best 16 teams competing for Sam. I can see how Cavan would be pissed off.
I also think, Offaly in 20th and Wexford back in 27th after Wexford beating them by 5 points. There's an argument there the Wexford fans are a bit upset. I know you're saying, league form comes into it and everything, but you have to be reactive here. Wexford are flying.
Yeah, okay. Wexford, Offaly. Wexford have moved up 2. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's reflective of where Wexford are in the country. And like Offaly knocked out Meath out of Leinster and performed so well in Croke Park. So look, maybe I'm giving Offaly a bit too much credit. Fermanagh moved back 2. They're not getting over Laois. Like Laois have had an horrendous year. Yes, they've pulled it out of the bag, but like the week before that, 2 weeks before that, Laois drew a 6-point lead and drew. The week before that, they pulled it out of the fire against London and got a late point. They have responded really well to adversity in the last couple of weeks. A fantastic win in Brewster Park, but I couldn't put Laois any higher than 24th. They're doing well to be that high, Shane, I think.
Is it your ambition and dream that we have an Antrim Meath Tailteann Cup final?
Oh, that would be tasty. That would be tasty.
You're not backing down from Down, are you, Tommy? Like I still think the winner of the Cavan Down match wins the Tailteann Cup, and I think it's going to be Down.
I think the winner of the Tailteann Cup is coming from there as well, Shane, and very hard to call. Like really hard to call. Like Down, I've had a really interesting couple of weeks. They were brutal against Meath. Like that's why Meath are behind them. Down kicked 17 wides that day, and I think they just got the better of Meath, or Meath just got the better of them, which is great for Meath. But there's been an interesting wrinkle this week with Down sending their players back to their club football who weren't going to start their game against Longford. I think they made a good few changes for that game. They weren't great. They were in trouble at half time. They'd missed the penalty. Really good response in the second half to win by 8 points. I think Down are in a good place. Down football is in a good place. I just wonder, it's going to be a cracker of a match. I just wonder who's going to come out of that game with Down and Cavan. Cavan are obviously going to be favourites. I haven't given Cavan much credit this year. I think Cavan might just... it's hard to call. I don't know. I can't call that one, Jim. Are you calling Down to win that one?
I'm calling Down to win that one. I know it's in Breffni Park, but I think that's
the winner of the Tailteann Cup.
I think it's the only away win of the 4 Tailteann quarterfinals. So Limerick will beat Laois at home. I think Meath will beat Wexford at home, and Antrim will beat Carlow at home. But I do think Down can cause that little minor, I wouldn't say upset, but away victory this weekend.
Alright, Pat Spillane Jr. is on the show on Friday morning, by the way, so make sure you tune in for that. We'll ask him about his dad's power rankings versus yours, and he can power rank the power rankings for us.
You can ask him how he does it. How does he scientifically do it,
Alright, because we've never got the full science. I mean, maybe
staying up till 2 in the morning.
Maybe Owen pass it on to you.
No, me and Owen have slightly different methodologies, but he showed me, what he does. And look, I can't reveal that.
It's the bottom of was it Death Road? Was that where he had his cycling accident in Bolivia?
Yeah, I actually can't wait for the 3-hour special with Owen when he comes back and he talks us through his trip. I think it was Death Road, but I think the best part of it was that his instructor, the tour guide that was with them, had kind of stopped at the point that he was at on the cycle, so they'd done this crazy cycle, and they said, "Okay, guys, well done. You've come through the toughest part. Now this is the bit where everybody falls because they think they've come through it." And Owen takes off with no fear, and very lucky. Thank God he's all right.
All right, episode 11 of Tommy Rooney's edition of the GAA Power Rankings is in the books.
Tommy knows his football, obviously listening to football pod the odd time.
I was looking at the power rankings and I thought that Jesus, Owen must still be feeling the effects of these mushrooms.